This is the Lydian spin, and you know we're not going to stop. But we would appreciate any help we can get because, look, our mouths do not run on gas and air alone, occasionally food and drink. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, no contribution, too large or too small, because we're just going to keep going whether or not you help us out. Your gain, your loss.
The PayPal is paypal.me/TSD1975. That's paypal.me/TSD1975.
It would help. We're going to keep going. You know, we don't like to beg, and certainly we're not, but actually, it's a fucking command. Take it or leave it. Thank you. This is the Lydian Spin. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Brooklyn to Berlin. Here we are. Hello, Tim.
Yes. I go to Leipzig tomorrow, but I'm here in Berlin. I actually had a fucking incredible meal tonight. It was a real, just warm me up in all the good and right ways. It was
glad to hear it. Well, maybe this will like tickle your cockles. So, Tucker Carlson said Washington, D.C. is getting weirder and kinkier, even by his own sordid standards. The ex-Fox News star on the October 10th episode of his program, The Tucker Carlson Show, told Republican from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, that U.S. Congress members are having group sex much more frequently than the average American would think. Quote, I've noticed, having spent my life in D.C., that people's personal lives are getting weirder. Have you noticed that? I mean, without implicating anyone by name, I don't think I'm imagining this. It's just not just sleeping with your schedule. It's weirder than that. Have you noticed that? Carlson asked. Burchett replied, I try to stay in my office as much as possible. Tucker, for the record, I just wanted to say for the record, I never heard of anybody participating in an orgy in D.C. We haven't had your ears open until recently, which I'm hearing a lot about it. Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's kind of it's kind of
I mean, they're fucking over the whole fucking they're fucking over the whole fucking planet. Why wouldn't they want to fuck each other? Come on, give me a break.
Or maybe those are the ones that felt left out because they were never invited to Epstein Island, and maybe they're just trying to they have FOMO. Maybe the Republicans say they have homo FOMO, which because they're the ones that they're the ones that have all these hateful policies, and then
I have to cut in with this with one of the most obnoxious representatives in Congress who finally is saying something that I can endorse. That would be Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's gone scorched earth on her own party, publicly lambasting what she called weak Republican men, and also one of the few guys released the frickin' files.
Yeah, but the thing is, she wants to get elected, so she's just trying to find her own path by talking about healthcare. I mean, she voted for the big, quote unquote, big, beautiful bill. I don't know what to say.
Well, why is she talking about healthcare? Because her fucking kids need it. And hello. All right. Speaking about healthcare and insanity, an ambulance crew in Portland says that armed ICE agents, which in my book stands for ignorant cockheads enraged, blocked them from taking a patient to the hospital. And one of the goons even allegedly threatened to shoot the ambulance driver. What the hell?
What? Oh my God. Well, more idiots involved in all this shit. Dr. Phil McGraw, his whole association with MAGA and stuff. It's actually really his brand. He's really going down the tubes. Like, I'm not even just talking about just being a fucking asshole, but he's kind of feeling like the old TV format was obsolete, and he wanted to do this whole new thing. And he started this, or he's a co-owner of the Merit Street Media, which is a spinoff of MAGA Media. He wants to get involved in all this.
Yeah, but didn't it go bankrupt already once?
It's a real fucking disaster. And so basically all his superstar producers he won Emmys with, he forced them to move out of LA to move to Dallas. And of course, everyone's just getting fired suddenly. Like, you just displaced my whole fucking family. This is a fucking disaster. And of course, he's super, jumping in being super MAGA is just already alienating tons of his fan base. It's just the whole thing's a disaster. I mean, which is kind of satisfying. I don't know why, but he has. He and Dr. Oz are just egomaniac, extremely unethical.
Excuse me, you're pointing out two of them. Give me a break. Come on.
Well, no, I mean, just
go
how they.
RFK Jr., cocaine dealer, heroin addict.
Yeah. Well, yes. Over here in Europe right now, 'cause I was just here in August. It's noticeably tenser. I mean, everyone's talking war over here. It's kind of weird. The whole world is fucking insane right now. So,
excuse me, Tim. It always has been. We just have more access to the information.
well, I don't know. Russia is flying drones. I mean, anyhow,
look, 92 countries are in conflict. So this so-called peace deal is a crock of shit. Who does Trump meet with? All the fucking monarchs, the kings, and dictators. What? Land grab. Hello. Yeah. Carry on.
Well, I mean, besides that, I mean, just like Poland, the whole Baltic are just spending through the fucking roof on weapons right now. It's they're kind of like ready for it. It's kind of like they wanted to have it happen or something. I don't know. It's weird. So it turns out it's a real double-edged sword, but the whole people experience this. I didn't realize this is high. 1 in 6 people. I guess ultimately towards the end of your life, this might happen. The whole near-death experience where you see that glowing light that people talk about, and if you come out alive from that, people are usually have that are still alive, but then they statistically start losing a lot of friends, get divorces, and all this stuff, because supposedly when they see this light and they have this near-death experience,
blinded by the light.
Yeah. Well, they have these
epiphanies.
They feel this kind of unconditional love, this real peace. They see deceased people that they miss and they feel connected with. They come back like, I don't even know if I like this guy. A third quit their jobs and go into another job. It's kind of like, well, it's life-changing, I guess, but it's also kind of, there's kind of a, I don't know. I think they kind of
it takes until you're near dead to change your life. You got a problem.
Well, assuming the person's like bad, sure, okay.
All right, what else you got? Because I got something I got to
throw. No, take it home. Take it home. I'm curious.
Take it home. So, quote, "We need to have a good spirit about being made fun of," unquote, said the false prophet who was just awarded the frickin' Medal of Freedom by a misogynist, racist, wannabe, upside-down, Bible-thumping would-be dictator himself. Yeah, Charlie Kirk. He considered his religious faith his most important legacy. What religious faith? And he criticized the separation of church. Hang on, I'm not done. He criticized the separation of church and state, believing Christian morals should influence lawmaking. He said him and his wife promoted the idea of biblical submission for women within marriage. Hang on now. Responding to a question about whether he would support his 10-year-old daughter aborting a pregnancy conceived because of rape, he said, "Oh no, the baby would be delivered." A few more quotes from this idiot. "The American Democratic Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white." Now, excuse me, America was not white when it was conquered, okay? Let's just get that. How about quote? Okay. "The Great Replacement Strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. I think it's about time." Quote, "We need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately." Quote, "Asshole. I have a very radical view on this, but I can defend it, and I've thought about it. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s, arguing that the Stasher had brought about what he said was a permanent bureaucracy meant to promote diversity, equality, and inclusion." Yeah, you fucking dolt. How about this? And this is his legacy. Quote, "I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights." Oh, God said you could have a gun? This is
that's ironic, of course.
It is rational. And hello, live by the gun, die by the gun.
He died in a America that he that he helped create. I have to say there were some pretty good jokes the next day floating the internet. Like, turns out at the end of his life he learned. Sorry, fucked it up. Turns out at the end of his life he leaned left. Biggest mic drop of all time. But but ultimately, this is where he's fraudulent. There's this false narrative that somehow he just kind of like, they're trying to compare him to like a Martin Luther King, this grassroots urgent movement with the youth. No. He was funded by fucking these billionaires. The whole thing's a fucking trick.
All he did, he should get the Medal of Imposterism for raising money for the other asshole. I don't know what else to say. All I can say is this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, and that's what I'm going out on. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Gary Lippman. Let me give a little lip service to Mr. Lippman, American author, journalist, attorney, film producer, gourmet diner of the highest order, has published works in the New York Times, Paris Review, has a new book out, I wish, therefore I am. I just want to quote what Eugene Hutz of Gorgo Bordella said about it. He goes, anything Gary Lippman writes is going to be infused with playful wit, topsy-turvy observation, and sublime streaks of imagination. But I wish, therefore I am, is exceptionally so. Yeah, that's just part of it. So, hello, you exceptional one. How are you?
You would know exceptional, Lydia. Great to be here. Great to see you and Tim.
Absolute. Tim's looking rather plumb. I don't know where he is, but where are you, Tim?
I'm in Berlin.
No wonder you're looking plummish.
Well, I'm in the red light district over here, but
we're very shiny, Gary and I. So, what's up, my friend? New book, Rare Bird. We've had a few people on with Rare Bird. They seem to be doing really good stuff. What's the new book about? And I know you're going to read us some.
I will. My new book is a book of wishes. I was coming off a book of one-sentence stories. I wanted to do a long book again, like I did with my first book. And I was thinking, what could the format be? And I always loved this writer, Joe Brainerd, who did a book called I Remember. And that book is all sentences that begin with the words I remember. And then it's just memories, random memories, some pornographic, some sentimental. So I thought, I want to get in on that kind of format. I can't do I Remember because the man did it already.
Right.
So my first thought was, I regret. And then I thought, that would be limiting. I regret a shitload of things.
In spite of everything, you're a very positive person. You kind
in
of,
spite of everything.
not only is your glowing skull filled with light, you do exude a certain positivity, which I feel both Tim and I, in spite of everything, also do. I mean, we're strangely positive.
Yeah, well, I was a big fan, and I became a friend of the writer Tom Robbins, who had a motto, which was, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Which I always thought was right, or make your own happy ending. Yeah, believe it or not, I can give myself a happy ending anytime I like.
But now, if you're up for it, honey, if you're up for it, bring it on. What can I say? You don't know what's going on between my. You don't know what's going on between my. Like nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Lydia, I'm going to leave it to my imagination. And imagination is one big thing about this new book of mine, because I came up with the idea. Well, just to conclude about Tom Robbins, that I quote about happy childhood, I like that, anybody can be negative. There's no shortage of negativity to plug into personally, professionally, internationally,
right.
In any way. But it seems like being positive, in spite of it all, while not being a Pollyanna and being foolishly positive with no recognition of the negative, but seeing all that negativity and saying, I'm not going to let it sink me. I'm going to try to kind of get my kicks and show other people kicks and kindness and try and get something cooking anyway, in spite of it all.
Well, I feel like I'm a positive negative in the sense that even though I somebody does have to articulate the negative, at the end of it, I think it's a positive duty that I'm doing, and I'm always laughing because of the horror. The horror makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So I just, I'm the comedian that people are too afraid to laugh at because they feel my punchline is going to be a punch in their face. Girl, I am punch rock.
Or I mean, or Oscar Wilde, importance of being earnest, right? So it's like it's comedy, but at the end of the day, being earnest is, that's
Yeah.
that's the way to go.
It is. And, there's a quote which is corny, but it kind of has a lot of wisdom to it. The pessimist may be right in the end, but the optimist has more fun getting there.
Exactly. That sounds like it might be Fernando Pessoa, but I doubt it because he was basically just a Portuguese pessimist. Which
Yeah, he was totally pessimistic. I mention him in my book. You know what's so cool about Pessoa? He was not just himself. He had all these other authorial persona, right?
Well,
these alter
he an accountant
egos
or something?
Yeah, he was like an accountant who wrote on the side, but he would write different kinds of books or poems, and he would assign them to different authors that he made up.
I love the book Blindness, about a city or village that suddenly is blind, which is kind of where we are in America now. Just saying. But it's like you as well. I mean, it's not so much writing in different personas, but one of the facilitations that you provide is you are a lawyer and you are a journalist, and you had worked with the Innocence Project, which is very important and very commendable and mandatory.
Oh yeah, there are absolutely innocent people in prisons worldwide. Yeah. How they got there, each one, it's a different story, whether it was simple, honest mistakes by the cops or the prosecutors. Very often, it's not mistakes. They were railroaded, right, for whatever reasons.
The wrong people, and let's face it, we need to turn the White House into the big house, and they ain't going down like that. But that's more about what I retell in my intros anyway, day by day, week by week.
Yeah, but the innocent people in prison, I've noticed, by the way, speaking of optimist pessimists, they tend to be, I noticed, and I never did a survey, so I could be wrong in the big picture, but my personal observations were people who were innocent or are innocent in prison tend to be either very gentle souls who couldn't talk their way out of trouble, right? Right? They just kind of were very vulnerable, meek, and got pushed in the wrong way. Or they're very loud, boisterous types who kind of talk themselves into trouble.
Right.
Where they should probably shut up and call for their lawyer. They want to talk and they talk themselves into getting railroaded, getting imprisoned when they're innocent. Maybe they're guilty of other things. In some cases they were, but they were innocent of that crime.
And again, just at the bottom line of all of it, America has more prisoners than anywhere else. And when I first started talking about prison, under 3 strikes you're out, Bill Clinton, not as nice as he wanted to be, there were 900,000 prisoners. Now there's 3 million. And when you counter in all on probation, all on parole, and all the family, it's like 20 million at least Americans are affected by the prison industrial complex that this country is so cruel about, yet we have corporate criminals forever getting away with their kleptocracy.
This is not scientific, but it's a theory I have with the rising fascism in America. I think that there's an element to the mass incarceration, and a lot of the white prisoners joined Nazi gangs or whatever they did, and it comes back. All this shit comes back, and it's obviously not the only thing, but it's. I think it's an element there, actually.
I will say, occasionally at the Innocence Project, there were clients who wanted their DNA test and claimed to be innocent, and on rare occasions they turned out to be guilty. The DNA proved them to be guilty, and they were just working the system to try and give it their best shot to get out.
That is, again, a minority compared to the injustice of the so-called justice system, for which, and I mean, it's skewered on all sides. I mean, especially in a place like New York, where a lot of people go in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. And again, where's the rehabilitation? Where's the re-education? Where's the empathy? And how about the project that started? I forget the name of it, but it was somebody that was in, I think, Sing Sing, and started this theater group. And anybody that was in that Arts for Rehabilitation had such a low recidivism rate, because art, of course, the salve to the universal wound.
Yeah. I always loved this story. Samuel Beckett, his plays were often put on by prisoners in prisons. Okay. And in Stockholm, or maybe it was Gothenburg.
Yes, I've been there many times. Yes,
yeah, and this prison director producer put on a prison version of Waiting for Godot, and the prisoners were such great actors that they said, let's transfer this to the Stockholm big theater, biggest theater in Stockholm. And of course, Swedes being very supportive of the arts and, having a kind of progressive general slant, were all about coming out to watch the prisoners do on the main stage in Stockholm or Gothenburg, wherever it was, the production of Waiting for Godot. And what I loved is the prisoners are brought to the theater, they're put in costume, and when it's time for the show, 3 of the 4 actors had escaped. Right?
Can you blame them? No.
Yeah, and ironically, if you remember that play, there's a character, I think it's Lucky, who plays a slave, who was the only actor playing the slave who did not escape, did not seek to leave. But here's what I love about the story, most of all. The producer was very nervous about telling Samuel Beckett, who was alive then, what happened. So he went to Beckett and said, well, Mr. Beckett, we did have a problem. I'm sorry to say that 3 of the 4 actors who were prisoners escaped. And instead of looking dismayed or
of course.
Beckett burst into laughter and said words I find really touching. He said, that's the best thing that's ever happened to my play.
There we go.
Yeah.
Why don't we hear a little bit of your new book? I Wish, Therefore I Am on Rare Bird, which just came out recently.
Yep.
Rare Bird doing some really good work.
Yeah, in fact, let's give it up for Lydia. You showed me Rare Bird's production of Chris Mars's paintings. So
amazing.
It's exquisite. Yeah. Give a shout out for Chris Mars from The Replacements, who's a very talented painter.
Unbelievable. Rare Bird's doing a lot of good stuff right now.
Yeah.
So,
all right, here we go. Here's something from right smack dab in the middle of my book. And it goes like this. How many sunsets have I witnessed in my lifetime? How many times have I coughed or scratched my ear? Said I love you. Said I wish. How many times have I declined to write down a good idea because I figured I'd remember it, and then I promptly forgot it? How many footsteps have I taken, and where have they led me? I wish I could learn the answers to such questions. About the footsteps, for example. Would seeing where I've walked disturb me? Would being reminded where I haven't walked disturb me more? Walking. I wish I could do it tall, do it proud. I wish I could walk like a panther while walking on the moon. I wish I could walk right back to you, or, if you deserve that Nancy Sinatra boots treatment, walk right over you. I wish that clad in a deep-sea diving suit, I could walk on the Pacific floor, left alone by barracudas, jellyfish, and killer squids, until I arrive at some glass-domed sunken civilization, an Atlantis or a Lemuria or a Mu, where I would be welcomed. Whether underwater or otherwise, I wish I could walk a mile in your shoes, or at least take a load off my feet while you walk that mile in mine.
Thank you, Gary Lippman.
Thank you, Lydia and Tim.
Yes.
Always excited to see you, my friend. You have so many great stories that, of course, books can only contain so many.
Right. And I had to cut a lot from this book.
Yeah, the editing process. I mean, what was that like?
Well, as with my last book, which was a collection of one sentence stories, which I think we talked about last time I was on the Lydian Spin, I wrote way more than I could publish.
Right.
My publisher said, you got this many pages. He's really cool about it, but I'm conscious of the fact that this day and age, people don't read the way they used to, and they don't read as readily long books.
Right.
Partly why that last book of mine was a collection of one sentence stories. Right?
Can you dig it? Can you handle it? Can you stand it? It's like, is it more than 140 characters? Fuck.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's like that with everything. I mean, music. I mean, it started with singles, the industry. Then it went to albums, and now we're back to singles again. They don't sit through albums.
God help prog rockers with the 20-minute tracks now.
Well, prog rock's one of those things I always say. It's like every now and then, whatever the zeitgeist is, it lines up in their favor for about a year. And then the girls are like, wait a second, this is not sexy at all. And sort of like the Cincinnati Who concert where everyone gets trampled. They're getting trampled on the way out of the arena.
I have to say, going back to some of my early material, 33-second songs, not a bad idea.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Your stuff, Lydia, I remember I always was struck your earliest stuff by a critic or somebody who said it was the first time rock and roll didn't harken back to Chuck Berry. Right?
Well,
that it was making its own path out of the grooves of everything that had come before.
I don't even know what it meant then or what it means now, but it had to be done like so much of what I do. I'm just saying.
Yep. Well, that's beautiful. You know what Borges, the great Argentinian writer, said when he was asked, somebody said, what should we read? What's a reading list and what should we write? He just said, I love these words of his. He said, read what you like, write what you must.
Exactly.
You got to do what you're compelled to do. Otherwise, you're not going to compel anybody to get into it.
Well, I'm going to tie this with what we were talking about prison and just sharing wisdom like that with people. I played a show once in this place called Huset, this art center in Aalborg, Denmark. And this black metal guy was like there setting up the chairs and all that stuff. And I was kind of like, what are you doing here? He goes, I got in trouble. I got arrested. I stole a bunch of alcohol from the store. And the judge said, you need more culture. And so your punishment is going to be working at this art center for
which is such a great punishment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he set up chairs for you, Tim.
He helped set up chairs and we talked. We got along, and that was cool. Yeah.
But that goes back to like
the prison system is very different, and especially Norway,
Denmark,
Scandinavia, because it understands problems may occur. And I mean, the biggest problem with American crime, other than the white collar corporate criminals, is that so many people are forced out of just the situation they have been forced, and the lack of respect for human life that this country insists upon as they kill everybody else and now want to kill us as well. It's a trickle down violent poverty, problem. I mean, I really don't think, other than maybe myself, anybody wakes up and thinks I'm a natural born killer.
Some do.
Yeah.
But let's face it, a lot of people are, I mean, in this day and age, I have to say there is a lot of outrageous crime that's just so random and so based on the fact that people have no respect, feel they have no respect in their own lives, that they don't feel like anybody else's life has any worth or respect. And so bang, bang, there you go. I mean, it is a problem, especially in this country. I mean,
you hear about the case in Brooklyn earlier, like last week, on the subway? I forgot where exactly. Someone held the door for someone else. Do you hear about this? He
And they
held
didn't
the
say
door.
thank you. They didn't say thank you, and then they got shot.
No, they didn't. No, the guy held the door for a bad guy, and the bad guy
Oh,
was offended that someone held a door for him, so he beat the kind door holder to death.
okay,
So
so
he's just fucking
recently,
crazy.
He was
but
crazy,
recently
yeah, but I
also
mean,
the same thing happened at a supermarket where a woman held the door for somebody, and and the woman who she held the door for didn't say thank you, so she was attacked.
uh,
I
yeah,
mean, this is how petty. This is like when your life has been reduced to a petty symbol of possible future incarceration anyway, when you are living impoverished culturally, socially, economically, morally, philosophically, dumb shit happens.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Dumb shit happens. And
and
it's getting, I mean, is it getting worse or do we know more about how bad it is? Well, with 350 million people in this country, let's face it, there's a lot of dumb fuckers who are bred and born on violence because that's what was beaten into them. And that's sad.
it's really sad. I mean, I have seen, I'm sure you all have too, really terrible parenting in public in New York, where a father or mother smacks a kid for just the slightest thing, and they're raising a kid who's going to become an adult who's angry and violent, and you know,
And if it's not caused by the parents, it might be caused by what they're force fed by algorithms at this point.
Oh,
yes,
there's
absolutely.
And
Oh yeah,
that's really scary and sad.
Well, going back to Denmark, the prime minister, she wants
Oh
to
yeah.
treat social media like alcohol, and then there's gonna be she wants to make it 15 and up.
yeah. Tim, I gotta say, I mean, the common thing here that we talked about with Beckett, the prison production where they move it, right? And now you just mentioned the guy at the club, the arts club in Denmark.
Yep.
Scandinavians, I spent a lot of time in Scandinavia. I have a son whose mom is Scandinavian,
Okay.
and they just have so much more of a tolerant and progressive minded uh, society. I mean, they have
Yep.
their problems, but anytime I'm there, you could breathe easier. They also have had their massacres, far less common than here.
Oh, it's funny you
But
bring it up because Breivik. You're talking about Breivik. You're talking about
well,
recent.
Breivik, yeah. I mean, but Breivik was horrible. But that was,
It's
how many
very
you could count
grim.
on?
Yeah.
You could count on one hand the gun
Right, exactly.
massacres in each
Like,
Scandinavian
And in this
country.
country every day.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah.
Anyway,
course.
They
I
didn't make the
mean,
front page.
it's the same thing
Yeah,
when I lived in Spain. When you would see a gang, so called, of teenagers, they'd be laughing, holding each other's hands because children there were treated like kings and queens. And the
yeah,
grandmother was still in the picture. And because everybody lives in such close proximity, except, not like subdivided like so much of America is, there was a, a studied eye upon bad behavior, but the children were happy.
yeah,
Not that there isn't, of course, incest and abuse, but because the community is so much closer, it just seemed like you wouldn't, like, if you see a gang of teenagers here, when I say gang, I mean anything more than four, you have to kind of get worried. But in there, you would just be like, damn, why won't they hold my hand and give me a kiss on the cheek?
yeah, exactly. And you know
Why
what
do I
I
get
think?
so damn happy?
I'm going to go out on a Luddite limb here and say it's dawned on me in recent years, for all the advantages of the internet, I think we were better off without it. I think we were better off. I don't want to sound like a
A Lidite.
bitter, bitter old man or any of that, but I was just fine with payphones. We did fine with paper maps. People had to look at it. Yeah, we had telephones and even answering
Hey,
machines,
how
but
about instead of PayPal, we had pen pals?
yeah, exactly. Well, Lydia, you
I
told
want to
me
go
you had a
really
pen
back in
pal.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Stu
mean,
Baders was
but
my pen pal.
but I guess in a way, I would call myself religious wise or religion wise a humanist, right? I'm
That's
all
what I
about
say.
human beings. I like face to face, body to body, A letter
Smell
to
to
letter.
smell.
Yeah, smell the smell. All the senses engaged.
I mean, let's face it. Truck driving serial killers, they do have a certain stench about them to be aware of. Just saying,
well, last time I was on your podcast, I told my Jeffrey Dahmer story, so I know a little bit about that. Fortunately, I didn't get close enough to him to let him smell me or vice versa.
There was I mean, look, and it's no wonder that they say that Trump stenches. Of course he does. I mean, look at the guy.
Well, the thing with humanism that dawned on me is, as cool as it is to have certain technological advantages, it takes us away from the face to face. So you talk about parents with children. The kids aren't listening to the parents partly because the parents put in their hands a fucking iPad or iPod.
They're like 3, 5 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody told me he saw a baby carriage where the kid's like 2 months old, goo goo gaga, and there's an iPad.
Gaga Google.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of goo goo gaga, it's Google, because it's an iPad that was bolted into the front of the pram. So the kid, instead of looking at the world or going to sleep, has this constant flow of bullshit images.
Well,
right?
And look, that's
manipulated ones.
That is a very accurate part of the problem. And this is also part of the problem of mass shooters, incels, call them what you will, that they are so discombobulated from actual communication with other people. And if they're just hooked to the web and then entranced in its clutches, they don't realize what real and other people are. And that's part of what this, government is trying to do. I mean, they're always trying to ostracize every other, like get the others against each other, which at this point, let's face it, hey, October 18th, this Saturday, no King's Day, a lot of people are coming together.
Lydia, one of the things that the Prime Minister of Denmark, one of the stats that she used was 60% of males between 11 and 18 on their free time do not interact with any other human beings in the physical world within a week.
Yeah. Wow. And that's very sad. That's very sad because, I mean, and look, we interact, all of us, chronically. We're like chronic interactors, whether we're performing, whether we're out having lunch, because it's important.
Right.
To communicate via human contact. And that is dwindling away when kids are just zombified by next. And it is sad. And I think there is going to be, I mean, I love that in Brooklyn 2 years ago, there was a rebellion of kids that refused to be online and sat on the steps of the Brooklyn Library writing in notebooks, which I still write in, of course, anyway.
Yeah.
So, Gary, since you're a social person, you like being out in the world, how hard is it to isolate and write?
That's an excellent question. I like the way Lydia before said she's a negative optimist or positive.
Positive negative, yeah.
Yeah, positive negativist. I like to think of myself, Tim, as an introverted extrovert or vice versa. So I'm pretty extreme both ways.
Well, Gary, there's a term for it. I think it's called an ostrovert. There's a new term
for really?
Somebody who's kind of introverted but kind of extrovert. There's a term for everything.
Not just a well-balanced person? I don't know.
Well, maybe so. Yeah, I guess I'm fortunate in that because I love being social and thrive on it. But if I need to be writing, and writing, of course. Do you have a
process for that? Do you have, I mean, I have a certain process for various things, but do you, like, for instance, if I'm going to take on a big project, I'm going to cut out a certain amount of hours, specific hours, every day that I'm going to work on that. That's what I'm going to work on, nothing else. And that's how I can get a book finished in 3 months, a cookbook, for instance, Paradoxia, for instance, a lyric 5 minutes when I'm ready to focus on it. But that's because of the discipline of the time. Yeah. And I think that that's a very important thing. The same way that bands have to rehearse, this is kind of not the opposite, but it's a different thing about this. I think it helps to have a schedule when you're going to. So, I mean, I'm wondering if you have, because you travel a lot as well.
Yeah, my schedule is just when I'm, and it requires me to be really passionate and interested in the thing I'm working on. If I'm not, then I'm procrastinating, I'm hemming and hawing.
Oh,
But
wait a
if I
second,
get,
because I want to know about some of the procrastinations because I have discussed this before. I'm mostly related to female writers. Like, I've got to clean that closet or I can't get on to the
yeah.
next page. I don't know if
Oh,
you share a
for
similar.
me, I'm a big reader, so I pick up a book and read instead of writing,
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's inspirational.
oh yeah, reading and even walking and dreaming and ruminating can really are
Anything to
essential.
get away
Yeah,
from the computer helps. I mean, even going to
yeah,
the going through another doorway into the bathroom helps sometimes.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
got
I
it.
think that's good. But what's bad is if you say yes to a really cool party or even a not so cool party and feel guilty that you didn't stay
Oh,
home and write. And somebody once said, again, it's kind of corny, but I think it's true. It's talent. There are a lot of talented people out there. Thank God we dig talent, but the ones who really advance are people who are talented at being talented, right? Who are able to discipline themselves, marshal their talents, and say no. My friend Harry Crews, the great
one of
novelist
my
who Lydia,
favorite.
yep, Lydia and I have talked about old Harry Crews. He used to say the secret to writing, which is a secret to any art, is, as he put it, ass in chair,
Well, then he
right?
would wake up. I have to say I share some affinity with his process because although I don't, when I wake up at 3 or 5 a.m., I'm not there to write. I'm there just because my body wants me to get up for a reason. But I have to say, he would get up at 3 a.m. and write. That was his
Oh
period
yeah.
to write.
I stayed at his house, Lydia, and spent weekends and half a week with him in his house, just me and him. He would he was at it. He was on
That was his
fire. He would
time.
write.
That was his time. Nothing's
Yeah.
going on. Nobody can interrupt you.
Yeah, and it was great. I once gave him when I was leaving, I was driving from his place in Gainesville
Oh,
down to
you just cut
Miami.
out. Wait, what's going on? No, that's
Uh,
me. Hang on.
I'm there. I hear you, Gary.
Here.
Okay, you can hear me, Tim?
Totally,
I'm,
totally. Keep on
Okay.
going.
You got me, Lydia?
hang on 1 second. I got to change something here.
Okay.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay. So Harry, he too was not only a dedicated, passionate writer, he was a big reader.
And a big drinker,
Well, yeah, I mean, but
like a lot of writers. But
oh yeah,
I have to say, A Childhood Biography of a Place is one of his best books.
I think it is his best,
I
in my
think so too.
opinion. Yeah. Harry, for listeners who don't know, who should get hip to who he was an amazing Southern Gothic novelist.
Badass.
Badass. He was in and out of jails. He was in and out of bar fights and karate
Cheese grater
dojos.
complexion.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, go look up his pictures. His picture alone will put the
And,
heebie-jeebies in you.
badass poetical.
Oh yeah, he was a wonderful guy. I met him in 91 or 92 and we stayed friendly till he died in 2012 or 13. And you know how I first got hip to Harry
I
was
have
your
no idea.
record, Lydia.
What?
You did a record back in the 80s called
Well,
Harry Crews. Your band
I
was
did a
Harry Crews.
record that had
Yep.
songs based on each of his books.
Right. So I
And
first got
only
hip to
did it
that.
in Europe where nobody knew who the hell he was, but that's my obscurity.
Yeah, but Harry, then I ultimately met him and we got to be pals. But one day, I'll tell you a great story. I gave him a book of the guy I mentioned earlier, the writer from Argentina, Borges. And I gave Harry this. I was reading the book. He said, "What is that?" And I said, it's a Borges book. He goes, "Who's that?" "Oh, yeah, I heard of him." And I go, "You know what, Harry? Take it, keep it,
Yeah,
see if you
read
dig
it.
it." I got another copy. And I called him when I got to Miami hours later. And I said, "Hey, man, how are you? Thanks again for the hospitality, letting me stay." And he goes, "Blood," which is what he would call me. I haven't gotten out of my seat yet. I'm still reading that Borges and it's good shit. And
Nice.
I'm like, "You didn't get up?" You go, I went to piss, but other than that, I'm just sitting here reading. I'm almost done. So I love that passion
Well, now I
that,
got to ask you about that because when I'm going to take a diversion for inspiration, I am a massive, I got to binge, or if it's a book, I got to read it. And like, I will, until I get to the end, I'm not happy. But sometimes I will read 2 or 3 books at one time. But if I'm reading a book, for instance, the latest one, Long Haul Investigation into Long Haul Serial Killer Truck Drivers, I cannot put it down until I am finished. Now, what's your method about that? Like you said, you picked up a book sometime just as a diversion from when you're writing. But do you just, and look, there are some books, let's face fact, Henry Miller, Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, you just pick it up, you read a few pages because you've read it so many times. It's enough. Put it down. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. Well, here's a question. Once you're really cooking and you're really enthusiastic, it's easy to keep going. You wake up and you're excited to work on it, right? The bigger challenge is when you're in the middle of something and you start losing faith.
Oh.
You start saying, is this any good? And actually, here comes Harry Crews again. Because I once said to him, Harry, what do I do when I'm in the middle of a draft of a novel or even a story or an essay and I'm losing faith in it?
Yeah, you start to question.
And you know what Harry said? I remember exactly. He said, the middle of something is the worst place to judge it from. You got to finish that draft and then look at what you did, right? The idea, and you know, Robert Heinlein, the science fiction writer, once said there are 2 rules of writing. 1, you must write. 2, now here's the second one. You must finish what you write. Because anybody can have a great idea, start a story, get halfway through it. It's whether you got the gas.
Well, and again, anybody that doesn't write but reads or wants to write doesn't realize how onanistic, how procrastination comes into play. You got to pace around. You got to do that. But again, it's the discipline that helps get it done.
Right.
And, when I'm doing my workshops, I'm like, everybody can tell a great story. Not everybody can write one. So you just tape it, talk to a cat or your friend, tape that story, edit it. There's your great story. Writing is a very specific thing. I'm lucky that I began writing for spoken word. So I'm pretty pre-edited in what I do. There are other writers that like Jerry Stahl, like Chris Campion, they 60 page outlines. I'm like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
I knew from the start to the finish. That's the way I do it. Yeah. But everybody has a different method.
They do. I had a girlfriend, an Iranian.
It's a method of no method, which is the Bruce Lee method. That's my method.
Right. Yeah. I had a girlfriend, an Iranian novelist, who told me she couldn't. Not only could she not do it, would she not do an outline? She had to begin with no idea of anything and write her way to the end with no idea, so that the ending theoretically surprised even her. Right. I'm different. My 2 novels, I knew the ending, and I give myself.
Hang on, exactly. With Paradoxa, I wrote the last chapter first. That's where I was.
Yeah. So you give yourself something to write toward. But you know what I do? No matter how outlined I am, I don't do like Jerry, really long outline. But no matter how detailed the outline is on paper or in my head, I do have this deal with myself that if I want to change something, I change it, right? You can't be so locked in, right? Because inspiration comes, imagination, and you just simply have to follow that lead, right? You can't stay locked into this one preconception of what the book is going to be.
And sometimes you have to step away. You have to take a shower. You have to take a walk. You have to read a book. You have to watch a movie. You have to talk to somebody on the phone. You have to step away.
Right. Or you have to take a year. You have to.
You know what? It doesn't matter how long it takes. It's got to be the best that it can be.
Right.
What's the longest you've left? What's the longest duration that you've left something and came back to and completed?
That my first novel was about a guy who's obsessed with Sharon Tate and has the great misfortune of getting cozy with a woman he discovers is equally obsessed, but with Charles Manson.
It's a
It's a
comedy.
yeah, so it's a very dark comedy. That was my first novel called Set the Controls for the Heart of Sharon Tate. And Lydia blurbed it beautifully.
Of course.
That book I first conceived in like 91 or 90. I was in a bar and there was a beautiful blonde bartender and I kept thinking, who does she look like? And then it hit me. She
No,
looks like Sharon Tate.
And I
And
mean,
I
that is beautiful.
oh, beautiful, but she didn't appreciate when I said to her, has anybody ever told you you look like Sharon Tate? Right? Um, but walking home that night drunk, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a story
Yeah.
about a guy who was in love? First, I felt in love with a bartender who looked like Sharon Tate. Then I made the leap and I thought, what if somebody was in love with Sharon Tate, which isn't going to end well because she's long gone, right? So that's going to lead to an unrequited love affair.
Look, I did write a song once called I Fell in Love with a Ghost, and that's kind of the story.
Exactly. Yeah. Great minds think alike, Lydia.
You should write a sequel of a guy who's obsessed with Nicole Brown Simpson, and he's dating a woman who's obsessed with O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, either.
Yeah,
I think it
by
should
the
be
way,
about a man that's obsessed with OJ and a woman that's obsessed with Nicole who wants to have revenge upon the ghost of OJ. All right, there you go,
got a good
Gary.
book cooking here. By the way, I got to tell you, right at the height of the OJ mania in this country, during the trial,
I watched every day.
Well, Lydia, you'll appreciate I was out in LA right in the middle of it. And one night, friends brought me out. I knew this East German woman. She brought me out and said, I want you to meet my friend Faye. And we went to a bar with Faye Resnick.
How did I know?
Yeah. The next night or 2 nights later, it was that same week, very close in time. I went to a bar, different night, different people I was with. And a guy walked over to me and goes, hey, I know you through so-and-so. And I looked at him and said, no, man, we've never met. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, we met through so-and-so. I said, dude, we've never met. I know we haven't. And it was Cato Kalin.
So-and-so was or no?
I didn't know who so-and-so was. And it was Cato Kalin.
That's so insane.
Yeah, it was a crazy week, right? Whoa. I felt like I was now tangentially entering into the OJ saga, right?
I have your Sharon Tate follow-up.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's pretty much agreed upon, like Cato Kalin was OJ's coke dealer, right? I mean,
probably, yeah. I can't remember. He was like his on-site. Didn't he live in his pool house or something?
Yeah, he lived in that little classic LA second home in the back thing.
Yeah, it was crazy that he kept insisting to me that he knew me, right? He obviously mistook me for somebody because
maybe he had a premonition of your next book, which is a man obsessed with OJ and a woman obsessed.
You guys just wrote it for me.
Did he have the Fabio hair and like the shoulder pad?
Yeah, he looked. I mean, Tim, it was right in like 95. It was right at the height. Okay. Yeah, he looked exactly like. So did Faye Resnick. I remember she had these gloves, these lace gloves that she wore that were.
I just knew it had to be her. Come on.
You guessed it, Lydia. As soon as I said Faye.
Trust the witch, but who then ends up on like The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? Yeah,
exactly. She was Cato Kalin was, as you know, very affable in this goofy, friendly way. But Faye Resnick had a real dark vibe, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
She wasn't impolite. She was perfectly nice, but she was,
I think, a bit of a Viper vibe.
Yeah, it was a very quiet, you know, there was a darkness about her.
What are you good for? Yeah, hello.
It could have been.
Speaking of what are you good for, how about another passage from your book in that?
All right, I'll read you just the first part.
As you wish.
How it begins. Well, I'll give you the first. I'll lay this on you.
All right, this is Gary Lippman from his new book on Rare Bird called "I Wish, Therefore I Am."
Here we go. Perhaps as we grow older, We either become our best selves or our worst selves. While I'm waiting on Dame Fortune, wishing she'd help me to become my best self, I'll try to remind myself of what the poet Mario de Andrade said before he died. We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we have only one. Here's another wish, that I could travel back to prehistoric times and lash myself to the sharp spined back of a large pterodactyl. I'd ride that sucker above the landscape, which eons later will become West Orange, New Jersey, the town where I grew up. Fortunately, this big bird I'm on top of won't notice me, or at least won't feel irked by my presence. I'm probably causing a bit of physical pressure, maybe even a comforting kind, like a human hand caressing her scales, although such hands and human wishes are still a long way from evolving. As my pterodactyl keeps flapping its leathery, fetid-smelling wings, circling the future Northfield Avenue, I'll gawk at one natural wonder after another and smile at all the behaviors, hostile or altruistic, of the other dinosaurs hustling around down below. Most of all, I'll try to determine the site where my future home will be built. Then, once I locate it, I'll unlash myself and parachute down onto that spot, assuming it's not currently a pool of lava or the resting place of a predator. Finally, I'll stretch out on the rocky ground where my bed will someday be placed and have myself a good long snooze, snoring louder than any pterodactyl's cries. Then my dead mother will come walking through the door and wake me the way she always did, tugging up the Venetian blinds and singing, "Rise and shine and give God your glory, glory, children of the Lord."
Psychedelic as always. That would be
Thank you.
Gary Lippman.
Thank you, Lydia. I want to blurb my next book with those words. Psychedelic as always.
There you go. I not
Kind
only
of
gave
you.
you the concept for your next book, I also gave you the blurb. Jason,
Yeah.
that'll be $5. That'll be one more lunch at the corner.
You got it anytime, Lydia. Lunch with lunch.
We do it.
Yep.
We don't tell anybody else. Nobody else is invited, but we got to do it. We got stories to tell that nobody else should hear, but we do like to tell it.
And by the way, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Stories.
Yeah, it's all about life.
Yep. Well, stories are life, right?
It is. Stories are the result of a life well or often maybe not so well lived. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Rise above, as Charlie once said.
Yeah. And as we know, a story doesn't have to be true to be good.
Trust me, some of I've written maybe 4 fiction stories, and then one in one of my books was accused of being the only real one. And I'm like, you think you know me? You don't fucking know me. But whatever. I'm just saying, the truth is a dead man's secret, but we're still living.
Did your mother read you stories when you were a little kid, going to bed?
Yeah, she did. My mother died young. I was 18 when she died. She was 49. She did wake me up the way I described there. She'd come in and sing that song to me, Rise and Shine. And that's kind of a recurring theme in this book, waking up, and
rising.
And rising, yeah. And as I said before, it's a book of wishes. I finally hit on the idea of this format, this kind of platform, a book of wishes, the way that other guy, Joe Brainerd, had a book, I Remember, which was a book of memories.
Memories, yeah.
I talked to my publisher today at Rare Bird, who had a great idea. He told me he wanted to do he suggested to one of his authors doing a book of people, and the title would be "You're Dead to Me," and it would be just stories about people the author hates, right? Who he wants to get revenge with.
Well,
But
you
the
know
thing
what? Has
about
he ever heard any of my spoken word speeches,
exactly,
political in
Lydia.
nature? He can turn
Yeah.
into this one because he's going to hear it clear, loud, and clear. Just
Lydia,
saying.
I'm grateful for many things in my life, and one of them is that I'm your friend and not your enemy.
I have no enemies because, you know, my hatred is so huge, it never affects the average person. I don't have time for petty hate. Why would I
Well,
do that?
that's wise.
Ridiculous.
And we're
I don't
back
have
to
time.
yeah, and ultimately with time being finite, um,
I
you got to
focus on what
really
I love
right, exactly,
and
Lydia.
who I love.
Right, right. If time were infinite, we could settle scores and nurse grievances, and I do
Well,
anyway.
I'll
But
give you a
I,
line about time. One long second that goes on forever. Yes, that is mine.
that's a beautiful line.
All
Yeah,
right, with
and
that,
it
we're
is.
going to say this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lush, Tim Dahl, Gary Lippman, new book. I wish, therefore I am on Rare Birds. This is the Lydian Spin, and you know we're not going to stop. But we would appreciate any help we can get because, look, our mouths do not run on gas and air alone, occasionally food and drink. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, no contribution, too large or too small, because we're just going to keep going, whether or not you help us out. Your gain, your loss.
The PayPal is paypal.me/TSD1975. That's paypal.me/TSD1975.
It would help. We're going to keep going. You know, we don't like to beg, and certainly we're not, but actually, it's a fucking command. Take it or leave it. Thank you. This is the Lydian Spin.